So today we're going to go deeper into the Fool's journey. And so, as you guys know, I have a background more so in writing and storytelling. And there is one great tale that has been in every story, every great story for all of time. And that is the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is not only the same story as every great movie, every great book, every great myth. It's also the story of tarot and the major arcana. So let's see, come up to our little backup camera here. So as you guys know, I published last week the Diary of Domestic Tarot. This is a tarot workbook for beginners or people who maybe are not new to cards, but want to have a more intuitive reading where you don't need to always look things up. So this has some really practical information. This has some really practical information on how to understand the tarot. So here we are, the Fool's Journey. And as we know, there is this great journey in every single story that is told. So that is the hero's journey. And this is why we call tarot, especially the major arcana, a journey of self-discovery, because the 22 cards of the major arcana, which used to be called trump cards before they were retitled as the major arcana by the Rider-Waite deck, which we have right here, the Rider-Waite deck. So let's get started. So this is every single story in history, and this is also the story of your life. So we're going to start off with the first, which would be, I can't believe that the mic didn't work. The ordinary world. This is the world before the journey begins. The hero is in its own world, oblivious to what is ahead. And this is what we see here in the Fool's card. So, for example, let's use a classic that almost everyone is familiar with, The Wizard of Oz, okay? So the Fool could be seen as Dorothy. Oh, so you guys are having sound over here now? Well, I'm sorry. I don't have much more time left because my patience is so thin. I'm going to throw it all out if... Okay. So the Fool. So this very much... So now actually a couple of things that I'm working on, as you guys know too, I wanted to start off with this, but the universe did not allow it. Was also thank you to you guys who've already subscribed to my Substack. I'm so appreciative of you, especially everybody who signed up, but especially you guys who already became paid subscribers before I even have anything posted, before my launch. It's a great motivator. It's yet another technical thing that I am embarking on. So one of the posts that I'm working on for the launch of the Substack, which will be next week, is going to be comparing the same thing that we're doing now to The Matrix, to Alice in Wonderland, and to Truman Show. So today we're going to talk about that same exact journey, but for, say, The Wizard of Oz, because this is the story that most of us have seen. So Dorothy in the beginning of The Wizard of Oz embodies this fool energy. And as we talked about last week, the fool is not being unaware or being dumb or foolish. It's actually new beginnings, a fresh start, taking risks, new journeys, having innocence, travel that is coming up, a journey that is coming up. And so we see in this, and last time we broke down the imagery, so we'll do a little bit of that. Like you see, the sun is optimism, brightness, growth. Here we have on his clothing, we have all of these flowers, and he's holding a flower. Flowers are growth, new things. He's holding a wand, but he's so innocent that he doesn't even know the power of the wand. he's here in front of mountains. Mountains are obstacles, and these obstacles are far out. We can just see the snow caps on top of them. That's how far out the obstacles are. And we see this man about to step off on the journey, but with no fear. So Dorothy in the beginning is she's living in the ordinary world. And then we have the call to action and the refusal of the call. These are two things. So these three parts of the hero's journey are encompassed in these two cards. So we start off as the Fool, but in order to become the Magician, so the Fool is the card number 0 in the deck. The Magician is card number 1. So in order for you to go to 0 to 1, you have to go through basically the alchemical process. And this is what we are seeing here in this card. This card is showing different elements of alchemy, from him, the way that he has as above, so below. He has this magic wand. He has the infinity symbol. He has all 4 suits of the tarot. We see the growth of the flowers enveloping all over him. And in order to become the Magician, to become one, the chosen one, we have Dorothy is the one in this. So she comes from the Fool to the Magician when she steps onto the path of, her path of self-discovery. We have in the Matrix, which I'm going to be doing a breakdown of on my Substack, and also going to be doing a TikTok video on that. Neo goes from being the computer hacker that just lives this normal life to them becoming the Magician, to becoming the one, to taking the call on the journey. So the call to action, a challenge or quest that is presented to the hero, likely an event, conflict, or opportunity that prompts an adventure. The journey begins. And then we have over here the refusal of the call. Now, the refusal of the call in tarot doesn't have its own card, because you kind of have to go through this in order to become the Magician. Whereas in, say, something like the Matrix, initially Neo, he becomes the one, but leading up to him accepting that he's the one, he has his doubts about the Matrix. He has his doubts. You know, he follows the White Rabbit, same thing like Alice in Wonderland, before Alice realizes that she has this power, before she becomes the Magician, before the journey starts. So that's why the Fool is 0 and the Magician is number 1. And this is actually 3 steps of the hero's journey, because this refusal of the call, then the journey doesn't start. So the refusal of the call is an important part of the hero's journey. But if you refuse the call, there's no journey, there's no hero. Okay. So it's all encompassing to the one before, because the hero initially rejects the call because of a fear of self-doubt. But this is the hero's destiny. It is already in motion. All it takes is a decision to move forward, that the hero must trust the process. So now, this is also happening in our own lives. Now, we have our own hero's journey of the full story of our life, but I also like to look at the hero's journey in many different aspects of life. Like maybe in your career, you're in one part of the journey. In your love life, you're in another part of the journey. In your creative endeavors, you're in another part. And you also can kind of, with certain things, end up at certain parts. So we have our main hero's journey, but we have a much more fully encompassing life than a hero in a story, right? In the hero of the story, we're only following that one plot of that story. However, in your life, you have all these different stories that are going on, different dynamics with different people. So you might have this in different ways. So after the call is made and they step upon the journey, whether it's Alice in Wonderland, it's Neo, or it's Dorothy, then comes the mentors. So meet the mentors. The mentor shows up on the journey and provides the hero with magical gifts, wisdom, and confidence to overcome fear and face the adventure at hand. Now, as we went over last week in this little tarot series that we're doing on YouTube Live, we saw where the Fool then becomes divided into masculine and feminine, okay? And it becomes split into 2. And this is where then that feminine masculine continues, because we have two feminine mentors, two masculine mentors, and then together the Lovers card. So these 5 cards are the Meet the Mentors. So now the High Priestess is feminine mentor. And as we talked about last week, her masculine counterpart is the Hierophant. So originally this was called the Popess, and this was called the Pope. And this was the feminine and masculine of the Pope archetype. And as we could see, everything here is mirroring the pillars. They both have the headdress. They both have, this one has people below it. This one has water that it turns into. And then we have here the feminine and masculine of the Emperor, the Empress, and the Emperor. So as we see here, you know, this is the Mercury symbol, but also feminine. And then this is the masculine symbol here, but also the Ankh. And we see this, we see that this is the sign of Aries. We have the 2, 4 heads, and then the Empress is actually embodying Venus, which this is the symbol of Venus. And see, they both have like scepters, they both have different types of crowns. So as this journey comes, so basically, say in the example that we're using now, not every hero story do they get 5 mentors. The mentors are going to embody these different archetypes. So say, for example, when we're talking about the Wizard of Oz, she has the Empress. That's because her mentor is Glenda, right? That's her name, Glenda the Good Witch. This is the embodiment of Glenda the Good Witch. Abundance, fertility, mothering, nurturing, creativity, divine feminine, Mother Nature. Now, Glenda does have a little bit of the High Priestess, but the High Priestess is a lot more subconscious. Now, some would also say that Toto, her dog, could be considered a mentor because he kind of leads her along the way. That's up for debate. Same thing with Alice in Wonderland. Some people will say that the White Rabbit is also somewhat of a mentor because it leads her on the way. Now, if we look at something like this, which will be in my Substack post when I do launch it, let's talk about the Matrix. This would be the Hierophant. This is Morpheus. Morpheus is embodying the masculine of the subconscious mind, the deepest. What is this here? Tradition, religion, organizations, rules, obedience, teaching, education, structure of the subconscious mind, mastery of the earthly plane. This is embodying the Hierophant. If we look at what is another example, okay, another one, the Truman Show. So the Truman Show, who is the mentor in the Truman Show? It's his former girlfriend person, right? Because he has the wife, but then there's that other woman. I have to look up what her name is. Sandra? Something like that? I don't know. So the woman in the Truman Show, she's the one who basically, this is more through a lover's card, okay? So the mentor in her situation is through this partnership, through the lover's card. So sometimes there will be multiple, like say, for example, in Alice in Wonderland, there's many people who could be considered mentors. I would say that the Cheshire Cat is her mentor throughout. And he pretty much embodies a lot of the Empress energy also. But a little bit of High Priestess as well. Wisdom, secrecy, introspection, things like that. Okay. So after our hero is from the ordinary world, gets the call to action, is the Hierophant any institution? It could be an institution. It doesn't have to. It's more so of an archetype. Oh, Sylvia. Yes, Sylvia is the name from the Truman Show. And so, yeah, like I said, she's going to be more embodying a mentor in the Lovers, which is about romance, attraction, choices, partnerships, balance, and unity. Okay. So after they have answered the call of action, which in some movies is actually a call, I think, doesn't in The Matrix the phone actually ring and like tell him that he has, like, he's in danger and he has to go, and then that's when he goes and escapes his job, and then that's when the next step is crossing the threshold. So the hero has committed to the journey and crosses the threshold from the ordinary world to the extraordinary world. Now that here is our Chariot card. So looking at this card right here, what do we see? We see that the castles are in the back. So we know that castles represent like the structure of the world. And look, also here in our domestic tarot book, we have, let's see, castles, the ideal achievement, wealth, security, authority. So in the distance, security and authority and the way of life is far, far in the distance. And here we have, again, our hero, which tarot, the major arcana, is a journey of self-discovery. So we're going to find ourselves in that hero position at all different parts of their journey. So here in the Chariot, and if you guys are watching on TikTok, we're doing this over on YouTube where you can see the actual cards and what I'm pointing out here. So we see this here. And now, look, remember last week when we were talking about how the cards mirror each other? There's so much mirroring in the cards. Now, we see right here that the Chariot is almost like an embodiment between the Magician and the High Priestess. We can see the pattern between both, right? Because look, holding in this hand is a wand. Here, you can see the Chariot, he's holding a wand, a much larger wand in hand. But then you see also is embodying the subconscious mind and the moon of the High Priestess, because look, we have the two moons here and also a starred headdress. And then, so see this is embodying the wisdom of both feminine and masculine, which had been split, coming in together. Now you've taken the call, you've met the mentors, you've got the extra wisdom, you've got the extra tools, and now you're embarking on that journey. And this Chariot is crossing the threshold. This is, if we're using the example of the Wizard of Oz, this is the yellow brick road. This is Dorothy stepping on that yellow brick road, is the Chariot card. This is Neo choosing between the red pill and the blue pill. The blue pill brings him back to the ordinary world. The red pill brings him to the extraordinary world. This is after he takes that pill. This is after Alice falls down the rabbit hole, and then she gets past that door. She grows big, she grows small. She has, like, the doorknob could kind of be seen as a mentor. Who would that be? The doorknob would probably be a bit of Emperor energy. But I really need to rewatch Alice in Wonderland to really get the vibe of what the doorknob is. But the doorknob is the one who kind of teaches her the rules of this other world. And then after that, she gets small enough to pass through. And then that's when we really start down the Chariot. Also, something like Truman Show. This is the Chariot moment, is when Truman starts to take charge of his own life and starts to realize, like, oh, there's these things that are not adding up. I'm going to start on this voyage of trying to figure out what's really going on here. So we see this embodiment of the feminine and masculine of the previous cards, the mastery of the Magician, the intellect of the High Priestess being embodied. We also have here, once again, this High Priestess mirroring. You know, we have the white column and the black column. And then we have here this mirroring of the Sphinx, once again, with this duality. And these Sphinxes are now carrying the Chariot. Now this originally, I'm going to show you guys some other examples of, so this is from the Marcelo Kroll Dreamer's Tarot deck, and just showing you like some of the different ways that these are depicted in other, the Oracle, the Creator is the Empress, the Architect, the Ancestor, the Lovers, the Twins, the Chariot. Now, see, this is very much like before it was Sphinxes, in some other decks, it's oftentimes a white and black horse. And then we see this like 6-pointed star, which this one actually has an 8-pointed star, but I guess, yeah, this is 9 points. So we see a lot of these. You'll see this in many different decks. It's always going to have this type of thing. Okay. So this is, what does this represent? We see this imagery. We see that the security is far behind, but he's not afraid to continue onto that threshold. He's accepted the role. This is willpower, control, determination, movement, progress, a vehicle, ambition, drive. Now, also in crossing the threshold is strength. Once again, mirroring the beginning. Now, just to jump ahead for a sec, we have three acts to every story, right? These are the basics of storytelling. So our deck is also broken up into 3 acts because this major arcana is the story of every movie. This is why I'm breaking it down for you guys this way. Okay, so Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Each of these are 7 cards each because we take the Fool out because the Fool is 0. So Act 1 and Act 2, we have this mirroring. We have them both, this is the masculine, this is the feminine of the same. This is the action. And then this is more of the feminine of the receiving. This is the power of being receptive. She can be with this tamed lion. You know, this is mastery in the masculine way. Mastery of the feminine way is to have this beast be there with its tail down and its tongue out. And we see this abundance of flowers now being grown up her body, you know? So we have this. So this is the beginning of our second act of the hero's journey. And we'll get to our third act after this. So, but as far as the hero's journey, this here is crossing the threshold. So crossing the threshold on the Chariot, but this also requires strength. But as we can see, this is not just strength of force. This is strength of willpower. But then here we see this is a much deeper strength. This is also the Leo card, obviously, right? With the lion on it. And this here is the Cancer card, the Chariot. So this strength card is much more than the physical strength we see here. This is also the mental strength, the psychological strength, emotional strength, inner strength. And this is more outer strength. So the strength card is courage and bravery, compassion, inner power, self-control, physical calmness. So then after that, our next step of our journey as a hero is tests, allies, and enemies. So tests, allies, and enemies. Now, in regular storytelling structure, this is always the longest part. So after Act 1, in the beginning of Act 2, we have a part of writing scripts, for example, which is, this is kind of called the promise of the premise. And this is also called like the fun and games part, where basically the stuff that you saw in the trailer needs to happen in this part of the movie. And it could be pretty long. So usually in a 2-hour movie, this section is going to be one of the longest because all of these parts up to here is only usually 25 minutes of a 2-hour movie. This tests allies and enemies, the promise of the premise, is that middle section of, that's the beginning of Act 2. And that's also where the beast story and different stuff happens. So this is actually one of the longer parts. So I'm not surprised that it's 3 cards in the tests, allies and enemies. Okay. So let's talk about the Hermit. So after you've gotten this strength and you've started on your journey, now oftentimes we end up in a hermit mode where a lot of times the hero itself becomes alone and introspective. They have to deal with their solitude, even loneliness. There's also a lot of self-reflection, a lot of introspection. Now, sometimes the hermit will come up as the hero themselves, or sometimes the hermit is an outer force. Like, say, for example, Alice in Wonderland. I personally feel, as I've been breaking this stuff down, working on that Substack post, that the hermit kind of embodies a bit of the caterpillar, and very much looks like it too. The caterpillar, and look, we also have the wand. So again, we're seeing this mirroring of the wand again and again. And then you see this too. This looks like the top of those snow-capped mountains that we saw earlier. So this is why there's nothing in the background, because the hermit is fully on top of the mountain. It has built its way up, and now it's in introspection. Or sometimes the hermit is a outside force that comes in, because we'll see this in other things too, like a lot of, I can't think of one right now, but a lot of times we'll see them come in as an outer character, the hermit. Wheel of Fortune. So these are the tests, allies, and enemies. This is the point of the movie where, say, like in The Matrix, this is when Neo is learning all of those things. He's learning all of those skills. He's learning to dodge the bullets and the kung fu, and learning the power of the mind and all of this stuff. Every movie has their story has their own way of dealing with this section. But this is like a very rich part of the movie. Okay. And then we have our Wheel of Fortune. Now, the Wheel of Fortune, we're going to go to the end of the deck and look at a little bit of mirroring here. So oftentimes when you're telling a story, you have your middle part and your midpoint. So we have the beginning and the end, and then the midpoint. So it's usually, okay, we start here, we go to the lowest low, and we end at the highest high. Sometimes a movie starts low, they hit a high, and then they end up low again. So the midpoint is usually the opposite of the beginning and the end of the film. So around our midpoint of our deck, this isn't our absolute midpoint, but this is around our midpoint. This is where we see the mirroring to the end of the story, like literally completely. And so we have the Wheel of Fortune and the world. And we see here, we have this angel guy, right? And then we have the bird, the eagle, and then we have a lion, and then we have a bull. So we have the same 4 animals on both corners. Now, this, is representing, so we're going to come back to that, but just want you to see that there's these mirrorings throughout the deck. Now, the Wheel of Fortune is change, abrupt change. This is destiny. This is fate. This is karma. This is a lot of times in a movie, let's see, what would be, I actually have something here, so I didn't forget any. Okay, yes. So also in this test, allies, enemies, this is when the allies, this is also when Dorothy meets the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the Lion, which is really interesting too, because we have also even mirroring of some of those animals in here. And then also, yes, tests allies. Then she has her magic slippers by this point. Let's see. Okay, and then this is when the Wicked Witch stuff starts. This is when it becomes the turning of fate, the turning of events. Where are you guys? Okay. Okay, then we have the last section of our tests, allies, and enemies is the Justice card. And once again, we have the mirroring again and again of these things. And similarly, where is it? Again, this mirroring of the magician and the high priestess coming together. We have the pillars. We have this same type of imagery with the tapestry hanging behind. We have this as above, so below. But see, for this one, as above is a sword and below is the balance. This is like the Libra card, you know? And this is the balance scales. And then we have here, this is like a snake looking type of creature. And basically, the Justice card continues the karma of the Wheel of Fortune, but this is with honesty, truth, accountability. This is kind of like karma, the wheel turning, and this is the correction of karma. This is integrity. This is cause and effect. This is going deeper than just... Okay, moving along. So we have our tests, allies, and enemies. This is that part of the story. Next, we approach the Innermost Cave. Now, approaching the Innermost Cave is basically the hero approaches the cave and must make final preparations before taking the final leap into the great unknown. Just as the hero was getting the hang of things, they go deeper into the cave. And this is where we have the Hanged Man come in, okay? So the Hanged Man's a very interesting card because a lot of times people would associate it with like the guillotine or like being hanged for like your wrongs or something. But actually, when you look a little deeper into it, they say that there's a lot of like shamanistic practices and a lot of spiritual practices that would require people to be upside down for long periods of time to get themselves in an altered state. So some people believe that this Hanged Man is that. Oh, thanks for the super chats, Emma. So this one represents waiting, sacrifice, uncertainty, lack of direction. So this here is going to be approaching the Innermost Cave. Now, like, let's say, for example, with the Matrix, this would be the point where he meets the Oracle. Now, the Oracle could somewhat be considered the Hermit, and like, it might be slightly, one's a couple minutes before the other, but it's still the hero's journey. If it's like a couple minutes like before or after, it's still basically following the same structure. Just sometimes telling the story works better in a certain way. So the Hanged Man, this is sacrifice. This is when Neo finds out that the Oracle says you're not the one and that you're going to basically have to sacrifice, choose between your life or Morpheus's life. That basically it's up to you whether you live or Morpheus lives. This is a sacrifice right here. This is approaching the cave. This is like, oh, the stakes are getting higher. This is getting crazier. And then we have the Death card. So this is like the sacrifice, the decision-making, contemplating, the uncertainty of what's coming. And now we have the Death card. The Death card is then the next step, which is the ordeal. The midpoint of our story where the hero faces their greatest conflict yet. Only through life and death circumstances can the hero be reborn. So as we know, the Death card could be the ending of something, but it could also be the rebirth. And we see this, look, because we have... in the background, we have these two towers, which we're going to see those towers later in the deck. And we have the sun behind those two towers. So we know that far beyond, there is this new beginning. And we have this white horse, which is, you know, probably biblical with the behold a pale horse, the end of times, right? And then we have these like three figures. We have a bishop, a woman, and a child. The bishop is like not afraid to beg for, you know, to live. The woman here is just kind of surrendering to the process. And then the child is just the pure innocence. And then we have also some people that are already gone. So this is a transformation card, the ordeal. Let's see what it is for Alice. I mean, oops. Dorothy, I mean. Okay, so the approaching of the innermost cave, this would be Neo coming to the Oracle, but approaching the innermost cave, that sacrifice, that waiting, that uncertainty in the Wizard of Oz is when they're trying to get up to the witch's castle, when they're getting up into her thing and all the monkeys and stuff are, the monkeys starting to fly is where this becomes the death card. And then remember, she burns the scarecrow. And then Dorothy splashes the water to get the fire off of the scarecrow. And then the water gets on the Wicked Witch and she starts melting. Okay. This is the transformation. That is the death and rebirth of the situation. And then now we have the Temperance card. So approaching the cave, the ordeal, and now the reward. The Temperance card, so this is like a card of balance, and the reward in the story is defeat. She's no longer afraid now that she's done that to the witch, and now she's like, oh, okay, now I can go back to the wizard, and the wizard could bring me back home to Kansas. And then here in this card, we have the angel, but we see, once again, we're seeing these like constant mirroring of things here too. Like we see the balance in just a couple cards previous with justice. And now we're seeing that repeated again, the balance in the two cups, from one cup pouring into the other cup. And then remember what we talked about last week with the elements? Like we see a lot of elements here. So we see that this is the symbol of fire. We see the water. We see earth. And then the wings are representing air. We have all four elements embodied in this. So we have this, and then see the angel has the sun on its head in the crown, and then we have the sun in the background. This balance is showing us that, like, look, this is going, there's going to be growth, pouring into other people's cups. Then what it also stands for, like on the very basic level, is peace, patience, moderation, calm, tranquility, harmony, middle ground, guardian angels. And then that will be the end of Act 2. And we come into our third act. Our third act, which begins with the devil. Now, the devil is part of the road back in the hero's journey. And so the road back is immediately following the reward. The road back follows the hero as they attempt to go home and celebrate their successes, but the villain isn't truly defeated yet. So we have Dorothy goes and she's like, oh, wow, now I can have the reward. Now that there's peace and balance and I'm transformed, I can go to the Oz, to the Wizard of Oz, and make my way. He can help me get back to Kansas. Well, then we see that the wizard is not a wizard at all. He's just a sorry old man that is playing a joke. And then also too, like say, in the Matrix, we have, he sacrifices, he has to find out whether he's going to sacrifice his life. The ordeal, he actually sacrifices his own instead of Morpheus. Then the reward, Neo survives. The road back is now everyone else is out of the Matrix, but he's still inside the real world. And he has his road back, which now he has to fight the Agent Smith on his own. This fighting the Agent Smith on his own is coming back into oppression, stagnation, addiction, obsession, dependency, powerlessness, limitations, materialism. He's literally physically in the material world, holding on to old habits. Now, say in your own life story, in your own personal hero's journey, where do we show up with the devil card? After you've already been transformed, you've gone through your life and death, your rebirth, you've been transformed, you've gotten out to the high road, but then old habits creep in. This is the embodiment of the devil card. Now, how you deal with these old habits, as we talked about last week with the imagery of this card, you can remove the chains these chains around their neck are not tight. They could just take them off. This is self-inflicted. Now, when they are ready to go, and like we said too, how each act is mirroring each other, right? So where's my strength card? Okay. Okay, so then see, this is obviously mirroring. As above, so below. He's holding the torch instead of a wand, but it's on the lower one. But then see, this here is the feminine and masculine. This is the feminine and masculine as well. So we see this kind of also, this beast of the lion is now like the beast of, and then you see they both have the infinity symbols. This one has the inverted 5-pointed star. Okay. So then after, it depends, how do you want to handle this road back? The road back, the oppressions, the addictions, the old ways, those things. How do we want to handle that besides our tower moment, which is the resurrection? This is Neo in the other world, and he's about to like die in the Matrix. And then he's about to make his way back to the Matrix. That guy on the other side is like killing everyone. And then Neo is still in the Matrix, and Neo is about to die inside the Matrix because the guy's going to kill him from the outside. And then he gets saved and comes back. He's about to die. And Trinity's like, oh, you're the one. You can't die because you're the one. And then Neo goes through the resurrection of the hero's journey. The resurrection is the tower moment. The hero is severely tested, one more and final ultimate encounter with death. Everything is at stake, and they must use everything they have learned to conquer the darkness for good. This is the unexpected change, realizations, destruction, upheaval, trauma, sudden change of circumstances. And now we come to our last step. There's actually two, but it's kind of one big one. In our third act, this is the return with the elixir. Okay, Neo makes it back to the other side. This is Dorothy, the tower moment. She really thinks that she was going to get out of Oz, but then now she's not. But then she realizes in this last moment, she has the star, the return with the elixir. The hero has resurrected and purified. They can now return to the ordinary world and share the elixir of the journey or heal a wounded land. And this is our star card. Now the star is mirroring, where is it? Oh, the star is actually mirroring our temperance in a way. So we see these two cups with the water, but they're pouring the water back in itself. Here's the two barrels. These two vessels are pouring the water back in because there's no fear. There's no fear or lack of pouring some of the water into the land because they know that there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to worry about anymore. We have these obstacles in the back with those mountains, but those obstacles, there's no path to them. They're way far out there. We know anyone that looks at this card, whether they understand tarot or not, they're going to look at this and be like, oh, okay, this is abundant. This is not needing of the cloaking, not needing of a robe, not needing of it. It's just the pure, true self. So what is this? Hope, inspiration, positivity, faith, renewal, rejuvenation, spirituality, and optimism. Now this is when then Dorothy realizes she never needed the Oz, the wizard, to let her come back home. She had the power. The Glenda the Good Witch shows again and shows her, oh, but you have the magic slippers the whole time. And that's the returning with the elixir. Now she has the information of self-transformation. Same thing with Alice in Wonderland. It's the same thing, this return with the elixir. After she defeats the Queen of Wands, I mean, not the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Hearts, right? She defeats the Queen of Hearts and is like reborn out of the situation. She now has the wisdom of how powerful she is in this mad world. And then this comes into our moon card. So the star, moon, and sun, these are a little trio here. And so we see that the star gives off its own light. The sun gives off its own light. The moon reflects. The moon doesn't create its own light. So this is where it's a little bit more the uncertainty, the secrets, the unconscious, the subconscious, because this is the moon. We know the moon rules the High Priestess card. So the High Priestess, all of this subconscious energy, all of this now is with the moon. Where is, I wanted to point this out to you guys also. Hold on, I'm finding it. Oh, here we go. Okay, so see the death card. Look here in the death card, the two towers and the sun behind them. And then we see here, look how far we've made it. From this was in the background to now we're up here. This is the two towers with the sun behind it. Now this is the moon, but it's also like enveloping the sun too, because it's reflecting the sun's information and the sun's light. So now we've made it all the way this far from the death card to, we've got this optimism, this abundance, this newfound, this returning with the elixir. And now this more on the introspective level. And then the sun, after we've gone through, now we have the happiness, the success, the vitality, the enthusiasm, the inner child. This is the road home. Like this is the real road home. They've got through all the hard stuff. And now we have our two final ones, which is actually the return. But it really still is all part of the return of the elixir. So then we have judgment, which is what we know happens, right? They say after you die, whatever, then you face your judgment. So this is after this whole ordeal, the judgment. These are the dead bodies being risen out of the ground for this resurrection, for this rebirth, for this reawakening, for this spiritual calling, for a full evaluation of the higher purpose. And then after the judgment, we have the world. And the world, like I said, mirrors the Fool, because the first card to the last card, the Fool and the world are the only two dancers in the deck. And we see the one wand doesn't even know it's a wand. Now the world has the full knowledge to have two wands, both wands, dancing, also mirroring the body movement of the hanged man, the sacrifice of the hanged man. We have the karma wheel now fully embodying all of this. We have, I mean, there's so many things that pop up in all of these different cards that are showing up here. So then we have, like I said, too, this mirroring as well. And this is completion, achievement, fulfillment, a sense of belonging, integration, wholeness, harmony, world travel, the universe, the entirety of it all, the world. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that little presentation. Like I said, oh, here's just a couple of other things that I think are interesting. So someone asked last week, how did I start learning tarot? And I couldn't recall. And then I thought about it. And I remember that first I was afraid to get a deck because it had all of these different, you know, had the devil card and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'd be interested in that. So I originally got a deck that was called the Native American Tarot deck. So I wanted to show you a couple cards from there. I actually used this as a, it made it a little harder for me because they had different names for the different suits. So then I would always have to keep going back and like translating back to the original. But after using this deck for a while, it made me more comfortable that then I just bought a regular Rider-Waite deck. So see, this is the star card. So we'll see like the comparison. And then I'll show you this is one of my favorite ones in Marcella's deck, the Dreamer's Tarot. So we see this one's like an alien girl with the stars. And then this one is here, like this So instead of the 8-pointed star, it has the 8-pointed spider. So these different decks are just different interpretations. Also, this is like the world, you know. I just had it, but that's okay. Here is a death card, so similar. The medicine woman, this is the Empress. The sled, so instead of the chariot, it's a sled. And then we see we have 4 huskies. And the judgment card, so the judgment card, it's someone's body on a little thing. So this is interesting. So if you were ever looking to make a deck or something of your own, there's many different ways to interpret that stuff. Okay. The star card is always the hardest for you to read. Oh, I'm surprised. I feel like the star card is kind of just a nice general optimism, positivity, faith in the situation. There's no lack mentality here. When this comes up, this is like there's no fear of lack. There's no scarcity. It's having faith in the process and trusting in the situation. So it's great that, you know, we're able to take these classic stories and be able to learn the tarot from them, because yeah, I guess that was mostly what I wanted to get through today. You guys, if you wanted, you could get your very own Diary of a Domestic Tarot on YouTube. So that has all of those steps of the hero's journey. And now when you do a reading on your own, like we've talked about last week, the major arcana is your day-to-day life. The major arcana is your big life story. So you might be at a star moment in your life story, or maybe you're here in a hanged man moment in your life story. And the hanged man moment, this is like on your bigger journey of the story of your life. And like I said, you can take different aspects of your life, like maybe your spiritual journey is one hero's journey, your career is another hero's journey. So maybe in your spiritual journey, you're in a different place. Maybe in your spiritual journey, you're at a tower moment. You've had a lot of information, you've taken that all in, and now you might be feeling like a little bit like you're coming crashing down. But then maybe you're starting a new job or something, and you're in that magician stage in that aspect of your journey. So I like to do stuff like that too. Like I can kind of see like where I am in life in certain points right now. Like let's say, for example, I've been in a very hermit stage since my ayahuasca ceremony. And let's take a look at that, right? So this hermit moment, this was what I needed in order to do the ayahuasca, you know, that chariot, breaking through the threshold from one world to the other, and the strength, which this was also interesting because then this was right around my birthday, and this is the Leo card. But right before that, you know, I would say that Mother Aya herself was very much high priestess and lover's energy, you know, mentors for me. And I feel like I've been in the hermit stage ever since. And then, but what's coming is the Wheel of Fortune next. The Wheel of Fortune, and then Justice. Personally, I think the Wheel of Fortune is my journey onto Substack, which again, I want to say thank you to you guys, especially those of you who've already become a paid subscriber. Like I said, this is like so like the sweetest motivation ever, you know, is because something I've dragged my feet on for a long time. You know, everybody telling me like, oh, you know, you really need to set up something for people to support your work. People want to support your work. They want to support your research. They want to support what you're doing. And I had like some apprehension about it. And now that I already have paying subscribers before even posting my first post, it was just like, you guys, people really do want to support me. Another way that you can would be by getting a domestic tarot book and workbook. And so there's still a lot more fun things on the way. I've just been doing this and figuring out Substack. And what I'm going to be starting with is I want to start with a post a little bit more about myself, because, you know, I know that you guys don't actually know a ton about me in general. My Scorpio rising keeps me very secretive. So first, I want to put out a little post thanking you guys and giving a little bit more information about me and my journey. And then this post about the hero's journey compared to Neo, Alice, and Truman. And also, I don't know if you guys would prefer it in the same post or in a different post. I wanted to come up with a hero's journey visualization game, tool, exercise, meditation, if you will. So basically, where we'll go through the different stages of the journey. I won't match them all up to cards, because then I feel like it gets people too analytical when we're in meditation mode. Maybe I'll implement a couple, but then we'll do like a meditation about like the ordinary world, the call to action. Now you can use it to manifest something or to reflect on your life. And we won't be crazy if it gets out of order. Like if something that pops up for a mentor happened after this or before that, we don't worry so much about the order of it. But then I think that that's something that would be really fun. So what I'm probably going to do, that's going to be on Substack, but I'm going to also post it here. Probably as a video to kind of tell people what's going to be happening over there. But then in the future, those will all be like for the free subscribers. As you guys know, the paid subscribers, one, you are supporting me and my work and my research and all of that. But then also the paid subscribers will get access to a monthly class. So yes. So for the first month, kind of like our little interactive thing is going to be available to everybody. But then, oh, thanks. That is such a unique and amazing idea. Thank you. Yeah, so I think that that would be like a fun way for us to, you have the most calming voice I've ever heard. Wow, thank you. Even though I started this YouTube video with a threat that I would remove your comments if you addressed the sound issue. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. If you're not a subscriber over on Substack yet, go over there, jennifercarmody.substack.com, become a free subscriber now. And then if you want to be a paid subscriber and support my work, you can do that as well. It's very, very much appreciated. The founding members are people who give an extra amount because you just love me so much. And I appreciate that. And everybody can go over and join. And then once the classes start, which will be in January, which will be behind the paywall, will be in January. Up until then, I'm going to have everything available for everybody. So our December activity will be the hero's journey meditation exercise. And that'll just be something fun that we'll do as I'm still learning how to use Substack. And I have a meeting with the people on Substack so they can help me figure out a couple things that I'm struggling with over there. And yeah, so thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for sticking it out with my sound issues and all this craziness. And thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.